Drugs took away our feelings, our emotions. We were completely numb. Someone tells you you're gonna die, but you don't react. Bro, I was so out of it. What can you even say when someone tells you you're dying? We didn't care. Drugs stripped everything from us, even our emotions. You're getting high, and some innocent kid comes up to you asking questions. And you tell him, smoke won't do anything. But that's how you started too, just a puff. So why give it to him? The people around you, your so-called friends, get you hooked. The person you love walks away. Bro, I get it. One by one, everyone you care about starts leaving until you're completely alone. We smoked Bonzai, bro. My friend passed out just like that. The carpet was on fire. If that fire had kept burning, we would have burned with it. But we didn't care. We just kept using. We didn't even care about our own lives. I started using drugs when I was 16, bro. I had just turned 16 from 15. But before that, I had already been introduced to alcohol. First, it was just a sip, then another, and before I knew it, I got used to it. We used to hang out in the neighborhood park with friends. We were 16th. And I didn't start with weed. I went straight to Bonzai. One of my friends had smoked it and came over to us. There were 6 or 7 of us. Let's just try it once, one time won't hurt. That's what we told ourselves. So we were just sitting in the park, and we smoked. Bonzai rolled into a cigarette. I took one hit. After that, it was like we were completely out of it. We had no idea what was going on. Were we dead? Where were we? What kind of high was this? We weren't aware of anything. At some point, my friend said, "Let's get up and walk around." So we did. As we walked back, we checked the park's security camera. My friend looked at me and asked, "Are we really here?" I said, "Let's go back and see." We were literally trying to check if we were alive or not. It all started with one hit. After that day, we stayed away for a few days because something really bad had happened. But then, we fell right back into the Bonzai trap. Back then, I was in high school. I'd go to school in the morning and work at a pizza place in the evening. I was making about $30 a day. And every single dollar, straight to Bonzai, every day, over and over again. Then I got introduced to ecstasy. After that, weed. But bro, we had already started with the worst. Then came meth, then cocaine, and eventually heroin. My life was a complete disaster. Bonzai is pure poison, bro. When you're on it, you stop taking care of yourself. You don't live like a normal human being. You lose your teeth, literally. Every single tooth in my mouth fell out because of Bonzai. By the time I was 24, I had no natural teeth left. I had to get dentures 3 years ago. And when you mix all these drugs together, your body just starts shutting down. My lungs, my heart, my arteries, they were all messed up. I ended up in the hospital. My mom was with me. The doctor was talking to me, but he didn't even really understand drugs. He told me, "You need to stop smoking. You could drop dead just walking down the street." Right in front of my mom, he looked me in the eye and said, "You're gonna die." But I was still high. I was talking to the doctor, but I didn't care. Nothing he said meant anything to me. The guy was telling me I was about to die, and I felt nothing. That's how far gone I was, bro. At that point, even hearing you're dying didn't mean a thing. Drugs had taken everything from me, even my ability to care. And we weren't just using one thing. We'd mix different stuff together. We started using Suboxone, the drug heroin addicts take. It's basically pure heroin. Normally, it's taken under the tongue, but we were shooting it up. I was injecting it every night, and after the injection, I'd keep going with meth. Then Bonzai again. It didn't matter if it was morning, night, whatever, we were using all the time. Every single day, bro. I'd look at myself in the mirror, and my body was wrecked. I hadn't slept in days, but I didn't even call it not sleeping. I was just passing out. Wherever I collapsed, that's where I woke up. Sometimes I'd go a day or two, maybe even a week without using. But that was rare. Most of the time, it was every single day, for 7 or 8 years straight. Man, when you're in that lifestyle, drugs are everywhere. How? Simple. They're in the neighborhoods, right next to schools. You can find them anywhere. Back then, I could step outside and get my hands on something in a minute, 2 minutes, hell, even 30 seconds. It was that easy. No matter what city I was in, whether it was a big one or some small town, I could find drugs. Sometimes, I didn't even have to look. Dealers would come up to me like, "What do you need, bro?" One time, we went on vacation. Literally, we took 10, maybe 15 steps and boom. A dealer was already on us, asking what we wanted. That's how easy it had gotten to find drugs. The crazy part? We weren't even out looking for them that time. We just wanted to drink. So there we were, 3 of us, drinking whiskey. Then we had some beer. And you know how it goes. Once the alcohol kicks in, drugs are the next thought. So we were like, screw it, let's get some ecstasy. We got in the car. We were already living near the dam. But on the way back, we crashed. We were doing 180 kilometers per hour. We hit a police officer and we didn't even realize it. The car was totaled. Thank God we all survived. We got out of the car, the cop got out too. And there it was. Just another disaster in our lives. Drugs had always led me straight into hell, bro. Always bad, always worse. My whole life had been about addiction. I'd never seen a single good thing come out of it. At one point, 4 of us got together in the neighborhood. The go-to drug back then was Bonzai. We got some, went up into the hills to smoke. Made a bucket setup, my friend prepped it, and I just took a hit. After smoking, we were supposed to just sit in the car and chill. But the weather was kinda cold. And bro, at some point, I stopped feeling my legs. After that, I blacked out. My friends told me what happened. I started foaming at the mouth. For over an hour, I was completely unresponsive. They dragged me to the hospital. By the time I opened my eyes, almost 2 hours had passed. Apparently, I had been lying in the forest for an hour before they even got me there. The trip itself took another 40 to 45 minutes. When I came to, we were in front of the hospital. Bro, my friends were actually thinking about leaving me at the hospital and just walking away. If I hadn't woken up when I did, I would have died right there. Back then, I thought these guys were my real friends. Looking back now, they're nowhere in my life. But still, for some reason, I catch myself wanting to hang out with them again. I don't even want to go back to my hometown. We had no routine. We didn't even wash our faces before drinking. We'd knock back 7 shots of liquor, take a shower, eat breakfast, and call that starting the day. And then, right back to using. I was constantly on meth. That was my normal. I'd take it, then keep drinking. One evening around 6 p.m., my brother came over and brought me some raka. We drank together, but I told him, "This ain't enough for me." I was already strung out on meth. Then I downed the raka. I was so gone, I couldn't even tell how high I was. That same day, my little sister came over, but I didn't even care. I grabbed a windbreaker, went home, and kept drinking. More raka, then 2 beers on top of that. That's when things really went downhill. I started feeling awful. Next thing I know, the cops show up at my place. I had already lost control. Before they even got there, I had completely blacked out. When they arrived, I had a Zippo lighter in my hand. I threw it at them. The commissioner was there. It hit him in the face. He got injured. After that, they cuffed me and dragged me out of my own house. I embarrassed myself in front of the entire neighborhood, the whole apartment complex. Not that it mattered much. The neighborhood hated us anyway. No matter how good of a person you were, the drugs, the alcohol, the lifestyle, it was enough for people to judge you. But the worst part? I embarrassed my family. My little brother was in his first year of university. Imagine how bad that was for him, mentally. But back then, I wasn't even aware of what I was doing. Or maybe I didn't want to be. When I finally woke up again, I was in intensive care. I looked around and thought, What the hell am I doing here? I called for the doctors. They told me, "You were brought here around 1:30 in the afternoon. You consumed way too much alcohol, plus a bunch of other drugs. We don't even know how many. You went into a coma." But bro, I didn't remember anything. I just told them, "Get me the hell out of here." I signed the release papers, and they let me go. As soon as I got out of the hospital, they took me straight to the police station. I had no idea what I had done. I didn't even remember throwing a lighter at a cop. Thank God he didn't press charges. Then I went back to my neighborhood. Everyone was talking about me. I kept my head down and went home. My mom was completely broken, mentally drained. My dad and I already didn't have a great relationship, and after everything I put them through, it only got worse. Drugs didn't just pull me away from my family, bro. They pulled me away from everything. I lost my friends, my social life, everything. The moment people found out I was using, they started to distance themselves. And my family, they kept saying, "You'll never quit." They tried to keep me at home, but drugs had already taken over my life. I couldn't see what was happening to me. But now I finally understand. I understand what my mom must have been thinking. I see how much pain I put her through. I'm just now starting to come back to my senses. I really hope this decision I made sticks. The worst thing I ever did? Hurting my family. They knew exactly what I was on just by the way I walked. One day, my mom told me, "I can tell what you've taken from 100 meters away." Bro, I was at home, already drunk, already high on meth. My mom just lost it. "Enough already," she screamed. She was losing her mind right in front of me. But I was so deep into my addiction, I didn't even care. Imagine, your own mother is crying, begging you, screaming in your face. And you don't even flinch. You don't even care. That day, I walked out of the house. No matter how bad things got, no matter how much we used, my mom would always say, "Don't go." Every single day. But we never realized that she was the one suffering the most. Think about it. Your mother watches her own child die in front of her eyes. But we couldn't see that. That day, I left home. I had my own place, so I went there and started hanging out with friends. That night, the police came. There were 7 or 8 of us, all passed out. The cops warned us once and left. Then they came back and warned us again. The third time, they dragged us out and took us in because we had no idea what we were even doing anymore. That night, they called my family. Once again, I embarrassed them. Once again, I found myself in the police station. I had humiliated myself all over again. When I was high, I used to hurt myself. I'd cut my arms. They're still covered in scars. My body was already wrecked. But thank God, I've started to recover. Everyone at the rehab center, the mothers, the uncles, the grandmothers, they were all heartbroken. The worst thing I ever did? I hurt myself first. And because I was bad, everyone around me suffered too. I had no money. There was so much theft happening, but I never stole from strangers. How could I? I was already well known in my area. But you know what I did? I stole from my own mother. She had places where she hid money. And I'd take it. And she knew. But she never said anything. She knew. And she still didn't stop me. Looking back now, I see everything so clearly. Back then, I didn't see anything. She always knew. She knew I was the only one taking the money. If I couldn't find drugs, I'd go home and steal money to get high. I sold my own phone, put it on my bill, cashed it out. Took out loans, just so I could get high. I even sold my car. I sold everything I had for drugs. At some point, every addict turns into a dealer. Because once you can't buy it, once you have nothing left to sell, once your family stops giving you anything, you start hustling. No matter how many lies you tell, they already know the truth. When we had no money, we'd take it from friends. If we couldn't reach the dealer, We'd pool our money together and figure something out. Bro, that was our life. We used to split whatever we got half and half. But at some point, bro, you realize you're not just using anymore. Now you're dealing. You hit a point where you can't find the drug, and before you even realize it, you're in the game. Then you get caught. You go to prison. And when you get out, your life is even worse. When you can't buy drugs anymore, when you're completely out of money, your friends find ways to steal or hustle to get it. They grab something from somewhere, sell it to someone else, and take a cut. The first time I smoked Bonzai, my eyes were bloodshot. I went home, looking completely gone. I started realizing that my parents would notice my eyes, so I started using eye drops to cover it up. But no matter how much I tried to hide it, they eventually figured it out. Their first instinct wasn't to kick me out. They were afraid I'd drop out of school. Their first reactions were harsh, but they couldn't stop me. So instead of staying home, I'd stay out all night and come back sober. That worked for a while, until it didn't. Then we started finding new ways to hide it. We'd drink in the shower so no one could smell it. We'd drink by the sink trying to cover our tracks. But over time, it just got worse. We started going hard for hours. People outside started noticing. And eventually, so did my family. When my parents finally put it all together, they started distancing themselves from me. People in the neighborhood started whispering about me. Your son is doing this. Your son is like that. I was messing with my family's mental health. My mom and dad were constantly fighting over me. And my little sister? She distanced herself too. We weren't like normal siblings. How could we be? I was an addict, and she wanted nothing to do with me. One by one, everyone left. Except for a few friends, everyone in my life walked away. But the worst part? You don't even realize it's happening. One day you're smoking, and a clean, innocent kid comes up to you. They're curious. What are you doing, and what do you say? It's nothing, just smoke. It won't hurt you. But you started with a smoke too. And that's how it happens, bro. You drag the people you love down with you. In the end, you lose everything. Your mom, your dad, your teachers, your big brothers, everyone who ever cared about you. And for what? Bonzai almost killed me, more times than I can count. I passed out and was left for hours. 2.5, maybe 5 hours. Nobody even checked on me. When I woke up, I was in the middle of the street, lying on a corner. I didn't even know where I was. I had been lying there in the rain for hours, but nobody cared enough to check, because once people know you're an addict, they stop looking at you. I had multiple close calls with death. I crashed cars. The car would be completely totaled, and I'd walk away. People would look at it and say, "There's no way anyone survived that." But I did. One time, after drinking and getting high with my friends, we crashed the car hard. But God still protected me, and for that, I thank Him every day. One night, I was at home with my friends, getting high. We smoked Bonzai. Out of nowhere, my friend passed out. The carpet caught fire. If that fire had spread, the whole house would have gone up in flames, and we would have burned with it, and we didn't even care. We just kept using. That's the scariest part of addiction, bro. Even when it's not drugs, you're addicted to something. You start saying, "I can't live without it." And once you say that, it owns you. You wake up, you use. Before bed, you use. And one day, you find yourself saying, "I literally can't live without it." And now, it's the most important thing in your life. OT, your family. Not your future, not even your own survival. The drug takes priority over everything. Your mom could be screaming at you. Our family could walk away, and you wouldn't care, as long as the drug was still there. It gets to a point where you can't even leave the house. Bro, I wouldn't even go to the store to buy bread. I wouldn't go outside. I wouldn't see friends. Because without that drug, I felt like I couldn't exist. But now, it's not in my life. And looking back, I see it for what it really was. Just an illusion. I almost lost my family. Kept telling myself, I can't live without it. And by the time I realized what was happening, my family was already so far away from me. Thank God now, I'm closer to them than ever. We're strong, and I believe things will only get better. Money? Man, there's no point in even talking about that. Drugs wrecked me financially. I had a car, gone. I had a good job, gone. I even had my own business, gone. I had good friends, real ones, the kind of people who prayed 5 times a day. I lost them too. I could have been living a life way beyond the standards I ended up in, but I lost everything. Now I'm trying to build. I'm doing everything I can to earn back what I threw away. When the drugs wore off, I would lose my mind. I'd be like, where am I going to find more? How am I going to get high? Anger, rage, one wrong word from someone, and I'd snap. My family would look at me like, what happened to him? But they didn't know. The drugs were gone. I couldn't find more. And that's when the panic set in. Even a few hours without it felt like hell. Hearing the word, it's over, felt like death. When you're on meth, you don't sleep for days. You don't eat. Not just for a day or two, for weeks. I was awake for days on end. No food, no water. Then, out of nowhere, the meth runs out, and suddenly, you feel like you're dying. I'd tell myself, I'm done. I'd go out looking for more, couldn't find any. I'd come home, feeling worse. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't walk. Without it, it felt like something inside me was being ripped away. I couldn't even go to the store. My legs hurt. I couldn't sleep. I was starving. I had lost so much weight, I barely even looked like myself anymore. Drugs wreck your body. Your body wants it. And when you can't give it what it wants, it breaks down. But thank God, drugs have no place in my life anymore. And they never will again. I saw what my mom went through. I saw how hard she fought for me. And while I was using, I watched her slowly destroy herself. Bro, just imagine. A mother standing there, watching her child die right in front of her. No one can take that. But we put our families through it anyway. We were slowly killing ourselves. And our families, they had to watch. At some point, my mom got really sick, and for the first time, I felt real regret. Not for myself, for her, for my brother, for my dad. Seeing them fall apart because of me was the first time I ever felt like I had made a mistake. At 21, we decided I needed help. They wanted to hospitalize me, but I refused. I'll do outpatient treatment, I said. But in my head, my only thought was, I just need people to see me going to rehab so they think I'm getting better. So my family would believe I quit. But the detox meds they gave me, they were strong. The doctor told me to take one. I took 2, sometimes 3. I was so lost in addiction, I was abusing the drugs that were supposed to help me quit. That's how bad it got. But if there's one thing that saved me, it was my mom. Through everything, it was always her, my biggest support. My mom. But when I came to this rehab center, I realized something. The biggest thing I lost wasn't my family, it wasn't my friends, it wasn't even my future. The biggest loss was myself. Drugs don't just rip you away from your parents, your siblings, your loved ones. They take you away from you. For the first time, I started feeling like myself again. Like my teachers used to say, know yourself first. Live for yourself first. Only then can you truly live for the people you love. That's what I learned, and that's the path I want to follow. Why do people start using? A kid who's never lived this life can't understand it. But here's the truth. Addiction starts in childhood. Let me be clear. I'm not complaining about my past. But as a kid, I had to work. I didn't have time to focus on school. Our financial situation was okay because I was working. But love? We didn't see much of that. And the environment I grew up in? It was built for addiction. So when people ask, why does someone start using drugs? The answer is simple. Because they've never felt love. Because they don't know themselves. Because they have a void inside them. And that void, it starts in childhood. Maybe they grew up in chaos. Maybe they had no father figure. Maybe they had a mother who never showed affection. Maybe they fell in love, but it wasn't returned. All of that, it pushes people toward drugs. And most of the time, alcohol is the first step. It starts with drinking, then weed, then Bonzai. And then, you're trapped. That's why the most important battle is against alcohol. If families want to protect their kids, they need to pay more attention. If you're in a bad neighborhood, get out. We didn't know that. No one in our neighborhood did. But looking back, I see it so clearly. If your environment is bad, if your friends are bad, you need to leave, even if it means moving to another city. Because addiction isn't just about what you use, it's about what you see. Even the movies you watch can trigger addiction. I know this because I lived it. I spent 24 years using. I know exactly why I started, how I was influenced, and what it did to me. That's why parents need to be extremely careful. They need to watch who their kids hang out with. They need to pay attention to their environment. They need to monitor what they're exposed to. Because prevention is everything. Moving forward. Thank God, I'm healing now. And when I leave here, I don't want to go back to people who will drag me down. I want to bring people here. People who actually want to get better. People who want to leave this life bay